resort to the detailed remaking of others' productions in order to give them out as their own. And thereafter, while searching very seriously for this something, certain of those inquiring beings of that European civilization even found in them a certain definite something or other. For instance, at the beginning of the contemporary European civilization, one of these beings, a certain monk named Ignatius, who had formerly been an architect, attained even to the possibility of deciphering the hidden knowledge and useful information in the productions of almost all the branches of what was already called ancient art, which had reached him from the Babylonian epoch. But when this monk Ignatius was about to share what is called this said discovery of his, with other beings there like himself, namely with two of his what are called comrades, monks, together with whom he, as a specialist, had been sent by his abbot for the purpose of directing the laying of what are called the foundations of the temple, which later became famous. Then, for some trifling reason ensuing from the consequences of one of the properties of the organ Kundabuffer crystallized in them called envy, he was murdered while asleep, and his planetary body was thrown into the water space surrounding that small island on which it was proposed to erect the said temple. The said monk Ignatius arose and was formed for the being of a responsible being on the continent Europe. But when he reached the age of a responsible being, then, with the aim of enriching himself with information concerning the profession which he had made the aim of his existence, namely the profession there called architecture, he left for the continent of Africa. And just he it was who entered as a monk into the brotherhood which existed on that continent Africa under the name of the Truth Seekers. And afterwards, when this brotherhood migrated to the continent Europe and increased, when its brethren began to be called Benedictines, he himself was already an all the rights possessing brother of this said brotherhood. The temple I referred to exists there even up till now, and is called, it seems, Mont Saint-Michel. In this Europe, still several other inquiring beings noticed from time to time lawful inexactitudes in the works of various branches of art which had reached them from ancient times. But no sooner did they find the key to the understanding of these inexactitudes than their existence came to an end. Still one other, that is, another being from that continent Europe, also noticed them, and continuing to interest himself further and laboring perseveringly, he began fully to decipher the productions of almost all the branches of art. And this wise terrestrial three-brained being was named Leonardo da Vinci. At the conclusion of my present tale about the terrestrial contemporary art, I might as well, I think, remark about yet one other of the many specific particularities of just those beings of the contemporary civilization who were occupied with this famous art. This specific particularity of theirs is that whenever one or other of the mentioned beings, namely of the beings who notice in various productions which have reached them from ancient times some very lawful illogicality, and begin to produce the given branch in quite a new manner, perhaps in order to make the said lawful illogicality practically clear to himself, then most of the beings around him belonging to the profession of the same branch at once become his followers, and begin doing supposedly the same thing, but of course without either aim or sense. And it is just because of this said specific psyche of the beings there, representatives of contemporary art, that on the one hand what are called now movements of art are always arising there among your favorites, and on the other hand, that those which are somehow arranged rightly by the preceding generations, even though only after a fashion, are constantly dwindling. Although this proceeds among the representatives of all the branches of contemporary art, yet for some reason or other, it is the beings who are occupied in the branch they call painting who are the most susceptible to it. Hence it is that at the present time there exists among these contemporary professions a great many new movements of painting, which have arisen in this way and which have nothing in common among themselves. These new movements of painting are known there by the names of Cubism, Futurism, Synthesism, Imagism, Impressionism, Colorism, Formalism, Surrealism, and many other similar movements whose names also end in ism. At this place in Beelzebub's tales, the hoofs of all the passengers of the tranship Karnak suddenly, as it were, radiated from themselves something phosphorescent. This meant that the ship Karnak was nearing the place of her destination. That is the planet Revozvadendra. Hence a bustling movement began among the passengers preparing to descend from the ship. Beelzebub, Hassein, and Ahun ended their conversation and hurriedly began to prepare themselves also. The phosphorescent gleaming of the hoofs was obtained because concentrated in a particular proportion there were directed from the engine room to that part of the ship the holy parts of the sacred omnipresent Okidanoch.